Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
चक्षुरुमिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वयं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपां साधुजातां सहगणा रघुनाथां वितं तं सजीवं तावदेकं तावदूतं परिजनासहितं सचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी विचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्येशकारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्ण। Am I audible? Is my voice audible? Hare Krishna. So we welcome you for this today evening session. And the topic is very, very special today. Dependence of Srila Prabhupada on Lord Krishna. So the 3 days, from last 3 days, we are having a series where the first day we discuss about Kunti Maharani's dependence on Krishna. Second day, Pariksha's dependence on Krishna. And today, the third day, Srila Prabhupada's dependence on Krishna. There. So whatever difficulties came in the life of Kunti Maharani, she always took it, and Lord was always protected Kunti. Just like Lord meditates, just like a tortoise meditates upon his eggs, and just by meditation the eggs grow. Same way Lord was always meditating on his devotees, the Pandavas, and he protected them from all the dangers. And how we saw yesterday, when Parikshit came to know that he has only 7 days left, he just spent his time remembering the Supreme Lord. And today we'll see the Srila Prabhupada's loving struggle for Krishna, for his spiritual master, and how did Krishna reciprocated with Srila Prabhupada there? How Lord reciprocated with the struggles of Srila Prabhupada, giving him abundant success. So, as many of you know about the life of Srila Prabhupada, so we'll have a brief there, and it's a very, very heart-touching life of Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada's dependence on Krishna. So first, before we go about Srila Prabhupada's struggles and things, we'll see first who is Srila Prabhupada. How Srila Prabhupada's prediction was made long back, 5,000 years before. So in the Bhagavad Mahatma, in the Uttarakhand of Padma Puran, so Bhakti Devi, she had grown old. So then Bhakti first came to South India, then went to Gujarat, and then went from there to Vrindavan. From South came to Maharashtra, from Maharashtra to Gujarat, and from Gujarat she travels to Vrindavan, and again she becomes young. And that time Narad Muni comes, and then she tells Narad Muni that one day I will go to foreign countries. I will leave Vrindavan and go to foreign countries. Leaving this place, I will go abroad. So this is prediction one. So who took the bhakti of Vrindavan to the west is none other than Srila Prabhupada. Then prediction two in Brahma Puran, when Lord Krishna was leaving from this world, all the holy rivers headed by personified Ganges approached the Lord. And Ganga Devi said, O Lord, best of lovers, now that you are going to the supreme abode, Goloka, what will be our situation here in this age of Kali? Now, Lord, if you'll go, all sinners will come and dump their sins in us. What will happen to us? You are going, and Kali Yuga has started. It's a very terrible age. And then Lord Krishna said, the sinful people will come to you, and upon bathing, will give you their sins. You must remain like this on earth for 5,000 years of the age of Kali. But man mantropasak sparshat bhasmi bhutani tashanat bhavishanti darshana cha snanat evi janavi. O Ganga, then there will be many devotees worshipping me by my mantra, and merely by their touch, glance, and bathing, all those sins will immediately burn. So it's a prediction that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra will spread all over the world. Then third prediction in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Prasite Parente Yate Ache Deshagram, Sarvata Sanchar Bhave Morana. In every town and village of the world, not only on Bharat Varsha, not only India, but all over the world, and chanting of my name will be heard. And that was done by no other than Srila Prabhupada. And in Chaitanya Mangal, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, taking the sharp sword of the congregation, chanting of the holy name, I will root out and destroy the demonic mentality in the hearts of conditioned people. If some sinful people escape and giving a religious principle go to far-off countries, then my commander-in-chief, Senapati Bhakta, will appear to chase them and distribute Krishna consciousness. Fourth prediction. And fifth prediction was done by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who said that in Mayapur we will see all nationalities together, Russians, American, Chinese, Brazil, everyone chanting Jai Sachinandan God. This dream was made true by Srila Prabhupada. So now we'll see the life of Srila Prabhupada, the struggles, what Srila Prabhupada went through to establish this difficult task, unfathomable task Srila Prabhupada went through. So if we see, in 1922, Srila Prabhupada was born in the year 1896. And that year only Bhaktivinoda Thakur predicted that a devotee who is going to take Krishna consciousness all over the world is going to come. And then after 1896, in 1922, where Srila Prabhupada was already married, he met his spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he gave, and Prabhupada that time was fighting for freedom and struggle, but his spiritual master told him that Krishna consciousness is an emergency, and you're an educated young man, you should go and preach in the West. Preach to all the planet Earth. Go to the West and preach. And that instruction, Srila Prabhupada, at a young age, took it to his heart. And he started working until 1965, where he boarded Jalduta and went to America. But even in India, between 1922 to 1965, there was a great struggle in the life of Srila Prabhupada there. He was alone, trying many, many ways to preach to Indians, and then he was planning to go to the West. And Prabhupada was completely dependent upon the Lord. In 1940s, when there was a World War II, so what had happened, there was an announcement that everybody should leave Kolkata and go out. Just like there's a lockdown now in Bangalore. So like that, a kind of more worse a situation where bombs were dropping in the Calcutta city in the World War II, because the Japanese were dropping the bombs were dropping in the World War II. And Prabhupada was leaving there, but Prabhupada's wife told that no, we can't leave. And Prabhupada's wife stayed. And then Prabhupada also stayed back because of that. And the bombs were dropping one by one. And Prabhupada was cooking. Now, if bombs are dropping nearby, how it will be, situation with us. And Prabhupada was cooking puris. And Prabhupada was telling that Krishna has come in the form of the bombs. And Prabhupada was coolly cooking puris. Say, if Krishna has to take me, he will take me. If Krishna doesn't, Krishna mareka, Mare Krishna lakeka. If Krishna wants to take me, anyway, he will take me. And he was coolly making puris, doing devotional service to the Supreme Lord, for the Lord. So that was Prabhupada's dependence on Krishna was always there. And then he was always meditating on the instructions of his spiritual master. So after in 1950, he actually took retirement from family life. His children had grown young, and that's the time Prabhupada completed his duties, and he went to Delhi and Vrindavan, started staying. And since his spiritual master has in 1922 given the instruction, whenever you get money, print books there and distribute books. So Srila Prabhupada started Back to Godhead magazine. The magazine name itself was Back to Godhead, go back to spiritual world. That was the title of the of the Patrika. And what difficult time Srila Prabhupada had to go through for that Patrika. Just think about it. That time getting a paper also was not easy in India. Getting one paper. For getting a paper also you have to write to the Prime Minister. That was the situation in 1950s. And Srila Prabhupada would himself get the paper, write it, give it for printing, arrange money for printing, and himself would go and take it, distribute in the streets of Delhi. There, he'll go to different restaurants and say, please take this back to Godhead. There, it will help you, it will show you the way to go to make your life perfect. So, like that, he is going. 60-year-old person going in the streets of Delhi, going to different places, and himself distributing. Even in the strokes, also, and he was completely dependent upon the Lord because he was living a vanprastha life, a life of a sannyasi. So no support, and he was just trying to serve his spiritual master, trying to serve Lord Krishna and preach the message, because Krishna Master had told that nothing can give peace in this world, only Krishna consciousness can give peace to this world. And he had complete faith. So he was going distributing that paper. And one day, and if you know, if you're in from North India, there's a loo goes in the summertime, and that loo is very deadly. If somebody gets a loo, he gets sick there. So I've been in, I'm from North India, so I've seen the loo, people are scared to come out in the hot sun during the loo times, in the hot summer. So, but Prabhupada was distributing Back to Garden magazine even there. And one day, a heat stroke, it was high temperature, it was a heat stroke, and Prabhupada fell on the road. And that time, one friend came, took Prabhupada to the hospital, and then Prabhupada got cured. And again, Prabhupada did the same thing. So he never mind any inconveniences there. And then he was living in Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. And he would every day write Shrimad Bhagavatam. He was translating Shrimad Bhagavatam from Sanskrit to English language over there. Because somebody has suggested that you're distributing this patrika, you make books. And he understood that this is the word of my spiritual master. So he started writing Shrimad Bhagavatam, and his plan was when he will complete first canto of Shrimad Bhagavatam, then only he will go to the West, because something he should carry, the West to give to the people. How much difficulty? And then Prabhupada went to Delhi just to print, the Back to Godhead magazine, this Srimad Bhagavatam. He went to Delhi. And Mr. Jain has one time came to Pune, and he himself told that Swamiji would come, and he will not, and he will come all the way walking from Chippywada to the printer to save money for the rickshaw, to print Bhagavatam. And every day, and he will come even without breakfast. And then Dr. Jain will offer him a breakfast also there from at his home. That Swamiji, you have not eaten anything, please take the breakfast. And Prabhupada was very, very friendly. He was telling, and he would himself read the proofs and everything. And finally, and Prabhupada always thought big. Srila Prabhupada always thought big in his life. He would write to even, so there was 40 years struggles of Srila Prabhupada in India. So he wrote to to Mr. Rajendra Prasad, who was the first president of India. So Prabhupada would, even though he was poverty stricken, everything, he's a sannyasi, but his dreams was very big. So he wrote, I have got the clue of going back to Godhead just after leaving my present material body, and in order to take along with me all my contemporary man and women of the world, I have started my paper Back to Godhead as one of the means to the way. Please don't think of me as something wonderful or a madman when I say that I shall go back to Godhead. After leaving my present material body, it is quite possible for everyone and all of us. Actually, now in ISKCON, we talk this back to Godhead concept very easily. We want to go to the spiritual world. We want to go. We speak very easily. One time, one person went to, in in Karnataka, one person went to one Pandit, I want moksha. And Pandit said, it's not so easy, moksha. Many, many janam lifetimes it takes to get moksha, what you're talking about. Go back there. Like I remember I was reading Bhagavad Gita before coming to Krishna consciousness, some other edition, not Srila Prabhupada, the other edition. And I would wonder, how to come out of this cycle of birth and death. This janam mrityu ke chakkar se kaise aaya? What will happen to me after death? So by that time, I have come to IIT, so my career was secure. But then I was thinking, what will happen after I die? I don't know. I'm not secure my that career. Then, and there was no clue how can you go back to God. And when I met devotees, it was so easy. You can very easily go back to God. Just chant Hare Krishna. And I never thought going back to God would be so easy, like a cakewalk there. And Prabhupada is writing here, I've got a clue to go back to Godhead. I'm going there, and all of you can also go. So this was Srila Prabhupada's preaching mood at that point of time. So he'll miss his breakfast to print the books. And now, finally, Srila Prabhupada got ready in 1965 to go to US. So Prabhupada chose to go to US because Prabhupada saw that there's some demand, some interest of people in the US in the culture of the East, means India. And many Westerners were coming to India at that point of time to learn the spirituality from India. Like you see, every country is famous for something or the other. But India is one country which is famous for spirituality. India is one country famous for spirituality. Many people, if somebody has to look for spirituality, they will come to India. Right? And Srila Prabhupada, he now to go to US was not so easy. You require a lot of money and everything there. So the one Mr. Agarwal was there. His son was in US, and he requested Prabhupada, can if and there was a talking. Prabhupada was telling that I want to go west, and said, no, my son is there in US. You can go, and he will host you there. And then Prabhupada got the opportunity. Okay, somebody is there. And then Prabhupada went to Sumati Murarji, who was the who was the owner of this India Steam Company, the cargo ships there. And Prabhupada told, can you give me a free ticket on cargo ship? Now, many of us would not have travel on ship also here, right? Nowadays, if you have to go to US, then you don't go by ship. You just catch a plane and reach in 18 hours, 20 hours easily, right? If you have to go to, yeah, it's so easy. But that time, the flights were not so much an option, very, very costly option. And Prabhupada got this free, he requested Sumati Maharaj, please give me a free ticket on cargo ship. See, there are difference between passenger ship and cargo ship. So I met some devotees who are the merchant navy, who goes on ship regularly. He said passenger ships are quite smooth, but cargo ships mean they take all the luggage. So they are not meant for smooth sailing there. So many difficulty. And first time Prabhupada is boarding a ship. And Sumati Muraji told, no, I won't let you go. You will die, Swamiji, there. What we will do, culture. You are a old age, 70-year-old person, 1965, Prabhupada was 70 years old. What will you do there? And you will not get anything. And what will happen to you? I won't let you. I'm like your daughter. How can I let my father go? And Prabhupada said, if you consider me daughter, then please arrange my journey to US. And then she arranged Srila Prabhupada's ticket. She booked and she made arrangement that Prabhupada had, proper woolen clothes and everything. And Prabhupada boarded from Kolkata. And how much money did Srila Prabhupada carried when he was at boarded at Kolkata? Only 40 rupees. Can you imagine? Only 40 rupees. Srila Prabhupada, an old man, 70-year-old man boarding a cargo ship, which will reach after 1 month, 2 months to US. And he does not know anyone there. Only just one acquaintance is there. And he's carrying only 40 rupees with him, completely depending upon the Lord, upon Krishna. And Prabhupada was purchasing struggle for Krishna. See, he's taking struggle for Krishna. It's not his life was a struggle. He was purchasing a struggle to serve his spiritual master, to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that was a great dedication, determination of Srila Prabhupada, which Srila Prabhupada was showing in his life. And then the ship started, and 15th August was there, and there was a Janmashtami festival also. Prabhupada celebrated Janmashtami on the ship. Prabhupada distributed prasadam to everybody on the ship. But as the ship passed Cochin, it was a great struggle because seasickness, seasickness, vomiting. And in 2 days, Srila Prabhupada got 2 heart attacks on the ship. Can you imagine? 2 heart attacks in 2 days. And Srila Prabhupada thought if the third one will come, I won't be able to stay. And then one night, Lord Krishna personally came in the dream of Srila Prabhupada. One night, Lord Krishna personally came in the dream of Srila Prabhupada and said, and Prabhupada saw the dream that Lord Krishna with all the avatars is rowing their boat. And Lord told, don't worry, I'm taking you with me there. So this is how Prabhupada was taking struggle and Krishna was reciprocated with Srila Prabhupada. And finally, Srila Prabhupada reached to West. And what happens? And he had only a pair of hand cymbals and a small trunk of his Bhagavatam sets. That's what he had. And proper rides. Today the ship is flying very smoothly. So after the next day, the Atlantic Ocean is very, very turbulent. but it became very pacified there. The voice became very easy. And Mr. Panda said that Big Swamiji, because you are traveling, so the voice is very smooth. You please return back with us so that our voice is smooth. So today the ship is flying very smoothly. I feel today better, but I am feeling separation from Shri Vrindavan and my lords, Shri Govind, Gopinath, Radha Damodar. The only solace is Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which I am tasting the nectarine of Lord Chaitanya's Leela. I've left Bharat Bhumi just to execute the order of Srila Bhaktisan Saraswati in persons of Lord Chaitanya's order. I have no qualification, but have taken up the risk just to carry out the order of His divine grace. I depend fully on their mercy, so far away from Vrindavan. And then finally, Srila Prabhupada came at Boston Harbor and came to New York. And what was his prayer? He's saying, my dear Lord Krishna, see such dependence upon Krishna. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? You have some business here. And we'll just read the yellow lines. What's there? Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they will be able to understand it, but I know that your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you're the most expert mystic. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it's up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. Oh Lord, I'm just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance as you like. The most unfortunate second beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. He wrote this in Boston in 1965. There. And now, after he reached the Boston and then finally reached the New York, and he saw big, big buildings, and Prabhupada was wondering, these people are completely in passion ignorance. How will I tell them about Lord Krishna? How will they will take that message there? And when the ship boarded, Srila Prabhupada did not know whether to go left, whether to go right. He was completely dependent upon the Lord. And that time, Mr. Agarwal, Gopal Agarwal sent one of his acquaintance to receive Srila Prabhupada, to take Srila Prabhupada. And then Srila Prabhupada went to Sally Agarwal's home there and says, now Gopal was an Indian, but Sally was an American lady. And they would keep meat in the same fridge. And Prabhupada had to keep his potatoes, a sannyasi from India. It's so difficult. There's so many difficulties Srila Prabhupada went through. So for 6 months, Prabhupada stayed in Butler, Pennsylvania, in US. And then he was not finding so much opportunity for preaching in Butler, Pennsylvania. He was trying, he was learning the American ways. See, now we know, oh, there are so many devotees all over the world. Now, this is the first time an Indian Swami going, taking all risks at the age of 70 years, going to a foreign land. And he don't know whether he was able to survive or not, but he's thinking of preaching. He's thinking of preaching. See, many people, they want to live and live their last life in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada left Vrindavan, going to America, taking all, taking all the difficulties in his heart there. So that was Srila Prabhupada there. And after going there, Butler Pencil, after 6 months, he decided I'll go to New York. And Prabhupada did not know anybody in New York also. But he got one acquaintance, Dr. Mishra, who was a yogi. He was not a devotee, he was a yogi from India. So-called means showing yoga, gymnast, and all those things there, teaching there. So Prabhupada got. And when Prabhupada went there, so Dr. Mishra's health was bad. So Prabhupada himself would cook for Dr. Mishra, and Dr. Mishra became healthy. But after some time, Dr. Mishra, he gave a studio Prabhupada little far off there, and which was like his studio, but there were no like a cooking facility, no bathroom facility. So Prabhupada would come all the way from there to Dr. Mishra's apartment for doing all that. Yeah. And one day was a snowy winter, and Prabhupada got up. First time he saw snow in his whole life. And from there, Srila Prabhupada was coming from the snowy area, coming to Mishra's apartment, and that is no there. And still in that situation, Srila Prabhupada was preaching. Srila Prabhupada was holding program. And one day nobody came. One day nobody came. And Prabhupada had got a tape recorder. One boy at Dr. Mishra's studio had gifted him the tape recorder. And Dr. Mishra never allowed, he will allow Swamiji to kirtan, but will not allow Swamiji to speak Krishna conscious philosophy because he had a different idea of philosophy, Dr. Mishra. And Prabhupada, nobody came that day. He recorded the lecture, and that lecture became introduction to Bhagavad Gita. Because his spiritual master had told, if you're preaching, nobody comes, speak to the walls. Right? Speak to the walls if nobody comes. Think, and Prabhupada followed that instruction very strictly. And then after that, Srila Prabhupada, he was preaching, and some people were coming from the downtown, from the downtown Bori side. There's some people were coming in the US, learning from Srila Prabhupada. Now one day, Prabhupada had gone out. When Prabhupada came back, there was a theft, and somebody had stolen Prabhupada's typewriter. And the janitor told, janitor means the watchman told Prabhupada that this happened, and somebody told. And by his speed, Prabhupada would understand he only had stolen. But Prabhupada had no proof, so Prabhupada could not do. But that time, Prabhupada decided, let me move out from here. And then some of the boys, young boys, were coming for Prabhupada's classes, and they were from downtown. And they said, many people are interested. Many people are interested in the body, in that area, in a air loft. So you please come. And they took Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada stayed with David Allen. David, that was the first person who was going to become a devotee. So he was in the Prabhupada's same, they were sharing. Now, what was the concept? It's called AIR. This law were given to people who were artisan, musician by the government. But what was that place? It has become a body. Body means what? One gentleman had told also, then don't go that place. It's a very dangerous place. Now, body was all hippies and drunkards would be there. And sometimes they are lying on the floor. You have to go on the staircase, and they're lying drunk, completely drunk, and they're lying on the floor. You have to say push aside and then go. And sometimes even they may commit murder also in their fantasy, and police was not able to control. So that was a place. But Prabhupada saw the opportunity for preaching. He said, I'm dependent on Krishna. If that place I get opportunity for preaching, I will go. And many people started to come for Srila Prabhupada's classes. Prabhupada start holding, classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 3 days Prabhupada hold, and people will come. Some acquaintances will come, and they can meet Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada will do kirtan. And this David was picking up. And Prabhupada thought that I will take him to India. And he will and take him to Vrindavan and show what is the devotional culture. And what happened? Can you imagine what happened? Now he started again taking drugs. Prabhupada said drugs are not good. And he kept the glass, he spilled the water, and Prabhupada said, don't do this, you will sleep. And suddenly he became angry on Srila Prabhupada, night 12 o'clock. And started showing anger, and Prabhupada had to move the house. Now can you imagine? Defeats, so many defeats, so many struggles, reversals. When Srila Prabhupada was in India, he was trying so hard. Nobody was cooperating. Srila Prabhupada. Nobody was cooperating to Srila Prabhupada. People were more into economic development after the freedom struggle. After the freedom, they were more into economic development. Nobody was taking seriously Krishna consciousness. And then coming to the West for a 70-year-old man, just think what the 70-year-old age it means to be there. So nowadays in 40, 50, we get back pain. But think at the age of 70, Prabhupada is going to the West. And after going at a 70 years of age to the West, Srila Prabhupada, again, a new place, completely dependent upon the Lord. He doesn't know where to go. And then he went to Dr. Mishra's studio, so many problems. And finally, Srila Prabhupada came to Bari, and he was thinking this will become a devotee, and it was a complete reversal. And it was a dead of midnight. Prabhupada did not know where to go. And that's the time Prabhupada called Kal, who would come for his programs. And then Prabhupada went, stayed with Kal for some days, and then stayed with Mike and Jen, Mukund, who later became Mukunda and Janaki, there. Prabhupada was staying with them. And they were very uncomfortable living with the Swami because Srila Prabhupada was completely pure, and this Mike and Jan, they were not even married also. They were living there, and they knew Swamiji is against those living like this. They have heard about, and so they were very uncomfortable. Swami, but Prabhupada was very tolerant there, and finally they decided a matchlet gift store for Srila Prabhupada. Okay, let us arrange some matchless gift store for Srila Prabhupada. So struggles in the body, the hippie movement, Prabhupada is alone. So there's a first center in New York. So they have to pay $200 rent. And the name was written Matchless Gift. And Prabhupada started to live there. Above was a room for Srila Prabhupada. They all arranged. And again, they don't know from where the next month rent will come. Prabhupada didn't know from where the next month rent will come. And Srila Prabhupada started to his whole programs again Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. And people start coming, and many people would come. And that time the youngsters were frustrated. Though in America in 1965 was very opulent, was flourishing at that point of time, but the youngsters were very dissatisfied, and they were looking what is the goal of life. They were looking for the culture of the East. And that time they started asking questions to Srila Prabhupada. And what they found that Srila Prabhupada was not high in the sky, saying that I'm with God, mysticism. All Swamis who came for India, they will speak something as they are very elevated, highly. So the Prabhupada was completely elevated, Paramhamsa, but he will be very practical with people. Even for practical things, he will take their ideas. Prabhupada did not have that, bubble. I'm a great personality and something. He very simply, humbly, and that attracted many of the Westerners there. And then slowly they started coming to the programs and saying kirtans and doing. So this is the time now Krishna started reciprocating with Srila Prabhupada's endeavor. And within few months, many people became devotees. And they would do kirtan, and many were like musicians, and they will bring all their solo and thing to do kirtan with Srila Prabhupada. I think we'll show you a video at the end of the class, which will make more sense with it. And Srila Prabhupada would, do kirtans. And one day, after few weeks, when he saw devotees are becoming serious, and Prabhupada would cook them prasad. Even to that extent, Prabhupada would himself arrange everything. He will bring vegetables, he'll cut vegetables, cook everything, and serve them prasadam. And after they've eaten, Prabhupada would himself wash the vessels also. Can you imagine? And till the time somebody asked, can I help you? Till that time, Prabhupada was doing everything himself. There. And they would just love the prasadam, offered by Srila Prabhupada, cooked by Srila Prabhupada. They would just love that prasadam. And after they started coming, and after 3-4 weeks, Prabhupada decided, let's go to the park. And they went to the park, Thompson Square Park. Srila Prabhupada went to that park. And under a tree, Prabhupada with the devotees sat in meditation and start chanting. For 2 hours without opening eyes, he was chanting. And when he opened eyes, he saw all the Westerners in the park was also chanting. And then Prabhupada got a hope. Yes, now Krishna consciousness will spread around the whole world. And they were innocent. Unlike Indians, where they make fun if somebody is chanting, a kirtan there. So they were very innocent because they didn't know what is what. So they were absorbing that spiritual vibration of chanting the holy names in their heart, all the Westerners. And these Westerners, they started dancing and they started coming to Srila Prabhupada's program. And then that's the time Srila Prabhupada incorporated SCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, there at the Matchless Gift Center. And then Prabhupada sent Mukund and Janaki to San Francisco, they went. And they started preaching in San Francisco. And they got many other Grhastha couples in San Francisco. And they're calling Prabhupada, Prabhupada, please come to San Francisco. We are preaching here and we are telling about you and we are chanting this Hare Krishna mantra. Please come there. And Prabhupada went there. And then Prabhupada started preaching there. And there many people started joining. And then Prabhupada had a desire that this Krishna consciousness should go all around the world. So Srila Prabhupada trained three Grahastha couples, who? Mukund and Janaki. Sham, Mukund Goswami and Janaki. Mukund Prabhu and Janaki. Sham, Sham Sundar Prabhu and Malti Mataji. And then Gaur Sundar Prabhu and Yamuna Mataji. So these three couples, Prabhupada trained them in Kirtan. And they were so surrendered to Srila Prabhupada, they went to London. And they didn't have money. So they were sometimes sleeping in cardboard boxes, young couples. And even Malti Mataji had a daughter also, Saraswati. There was sometimes they didn't had any money also, to pay for the rent. And one day Shamsundar found that some money not flying coming from the sky to pay for the rent there. And they made many devotees. And they were always searching, Beatles, just George Harrison. He was very, very famous singer in England at that point of time, George Harrison. And they were looking for, whether George Harrison, we can make. And John Harrison had already got the tape of Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And he was searching for the devotees, and devotees were trying to meet him. But people were so mad for him that just to take one glance, people will climb on the aeroplane also from which he will come. There. Still, they will not have audience for him. Then one day, he made one cake. And with that cake, he went, and then, and with the cake, he met George Harrison. And George Harrison, where were you? I was looking for you. And George Harrison became a devotee, and Yamuna Mataji sang. You might have heard Govindam Adi Purusham Tamham Bhajami. And the title, that Krishna consciousness startles London there. And then from there, whole of Europe, France, Italy, everywhere people started becoming devotees. In fact, one time one fashion designer one heroine came to Srila Prabhupada to become a devotee there. So before she was a heroine with all fashion, and afterwards she is in wearing, sari, washing the pots in the temple and doing simple services. So many affluent people, many scientists came, like Sarup Damodar Swami, many very intelligent people, many scientists, many very things. They started getting attracted to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada has so much courage that he went to West and directly hit them. Darwin's theory is bogus. Don't do abortions, don't do meat eating. Openly spoke to all scientists that your sciences life cannot come from chemicals. So directly start opposing all the scientific theories right going in America. That was the power of Srila Prabhupada's courage and wisdom. And Americans were very amazed, the American government, that they could not control the hippies. But Srila Prabhupada was completely controlling Prabhupada transformed hippies to happies. There. So that was Srila Prabhupada's dedication. And then Prabhupada then sent devotees to Africa. Prabhupada came to India with many. And then when Prabhupada came with India, then some people saying, they are all CIA agent, they have come from America, like that. So rather than welcoming Prabhupada, face more. But Prabhupada wanted that Indians should take up. But Prabhupada, no, if Indians take up Krishna consciousness, they can give to the whole world. I said, see, I am one Indian. I did so much. And all of your Indians, how much you can do? Like that, Prabhupada would say there. And actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that Bharata Bhumite Hole Janna Hole Yar Janama Sarthak Karo Karo Paroka. So those who are taken birth in this Bharat Bhumi, Janam Sarthak Karo. Make your life perfect. And give Karo Paroka, give this Krishna consciousness to others. Those are born in this land of Bharatvarsha. And Srila Prabhupada started to distribute Krishna consciousness all over the world. And what was the result of that? So 3 Grasta couples, they went. It's George Harrison, they're dancing and they made a record. It was very famous. And Srila Prabhupada preached all over the world. Prabhupada only went 3 days visit to Russia. Now, there are about 50,000 devotees in Russia. Proper devotees. And like that, there are lakhs of people, devotees. But proper devotees, 50,000 devotees in Russia. And at one point of time, that Russian preaching was in 90s and 2000. The Russian preaching was even more than Indian preaching also at one point of time. It was so powerful happening. And that was an iron curtain. The Russians were afraid of 2 things: Krishna consciousness and Western culture. So they will put all restrictions that Prabhupada was not allowed to carry a Bhagavad Gita. But somehow Prabhupada carried one Bhagavad Gita. But they were not allowed to meet anybody. But then Shyam Sundar Prabhu went to get some bread and milk, and there he found this Ananta Shanti, the first person who saw this is an American person wearing a Indian dress and in Russia. And he got amazed. And he's trying to ignore it. And then he came to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada taught him Bhagavad Gita for 2-3 days. And then he became devotee, and from him, all preaching in Russia started. So that's how the miracles start happening. In fact, Prabhupada sent Tamal Krishna Maharaj to China to preach there. And the whole world, whole globe was becoming a devotee. So Krishna empowered Srila Prabhupada beyond the limits. And then Prabhupada initiated 5,000 disciples all over the world. And Prabhupada created so many temples in just 10 years, which is completely a miracle. Nobody can think an old man, 70-year-old man, going to a foreign place, practically no money, can bring such a revolution. And same Srila Prabhupada's mercy is running. That even such a lockdown, we are discussing the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita. Can you imagine? This is all Srila Prabhupada's mercy. So now at the end of this class, I wanted to show you some clip from Your Ever Well-Wisher. It shows a huge success. So there's a whole background. But all throughout, Srila Prabhupada remained completely dependent on Lord Krishna. And he was following the instruction of the spiritual master. Even, again, Prabhupada got some heart problem and thing. But he just went and paid obeisances before the photo of his Guru, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj there. And he was not much interested in taking treatment and everything. Then he came to India. So many struggles he went through India, establishing temple in Vrindavan, Mumbai, Mayapur, there. And Prabhupada had given such a legacy there. And even in 1977, when Srila Prabhupada became sick and he was planning to leave this world, his time came. But Prabhupada came to London in very sick condition. But he's not able to walk also carrying in a palanquin. He came to London to just encourage the devotees. And all our devotees will go, and they will just, because they see, as Indians, we have heard about Krishna before. But Westerners, they have not seen Krishna. They have not heard about Krishna before. The person who we met was Srila Prabhupada. Right? So for them, the Krishna means that from Srila Prabhupada, they can know about who is Krishna and what is Krishna. And we are so fortunate that we are able to come to know about Krishna so easily. It's not so easy to understand about Krishna. But in mercy of Srila Prabhupada, even we are able to come to know about Krishna. So just think the power, how Krishna reciprocates with his devotees. So when we go and give this message to others, Krishna reciprocates in our life. So Krishna reciprocates to his devotees who are seeking his shelter. And this is the beauty of this Krishna consciousness. And I'll show you that video clip, which is very, very inspiring. I think some of you might have seen also that clip before, some may not, but I'll show a part of the clip.
Serious and terribly devoted to what they were about, and I couldn't put those two pieces together. Their confusion, uncertainty on the one hand, and their commitment on the other, until I met Bhaktivedanta Swami. And as soon as I met him, which was after several visits to the temple, I realized that this was the person who really made the whole thing go. But the impressive thing about that was he was never himself in the center. He never said, you should do this because of me. He always said, you should do this and I should do this because of Krishna. When he gave them instructions to do what they thought were impossible things, like he told one of the early disciples, go start a magazine. The guy had never had any contact with a magazine before in his life except to read one. And he said, how am I to do that? And Bhaktivedanta Swami said, Krishna will help you. He was just astonishing in terms of the personal impact that he had on people, the way that he was able to give them confidence in themselves, but more importantly, give them confidence that there was a guide who was leading them and would give them the strength that they needed.
Bhaktivedanta Swami does not belong to New York. He belongs to Krishna. So when a few of his followers invite him to San Francisco, he goes and introduces the freewheeling youth to Krishna, his ancient culture, his spiritual food, his eternal chant, the way to stay high forever. In the heart of the hippie movement, Haight-Ashbury, Golden Gate Park, and in the hearts of the hippies, the Hare Krishna mantra resounds with unimagined potency. As in New York, Bhaktivedanta Swami gathers sincere followers. The Hare Krishna movement begins to grow. Bhaktivedanta Swami becomes respectfully known as Prabhupada, meaning one at whose feet the masters sit. From Montreal, Prabhupada sends 6 disciples to open a temple in London. Yamuna Devi Dasi remembers.
So we went to London that fall, and although we had no permanent place of residence and we were completely dependent on Krishna, somehow or another, by the enthusiasm that Srila Prabhupada had given us in Montreal, we were able to make contact with George Harrison, who was a member of the Beatles at the time. And he was such a pleasant person to be with. He so much appreciated the Hare Krishna mantra that he immediately said, let's make a 45 record. So we'd cut a record, and he was very pleased with it, did a little background music on it, and it was released, and Apple organized tours for us. We went to Germany and France and had television coverage. And in this way, the London Times wanted to do, the Sunday Times wanted to do a feature on us, and we were able to send the report back to Srila Prabhupada with the headlines, Krishna Consciousness Startles London.
As people come to him, convinced of the Krishna conscious philosophy, Srila Prabhupada accepts them for initiation, not on the basis of birth, as in the rigid Hindu caste system, but on the basis of qualification and sincerity. In the whole history of Indian spiritual life, no one has ever attempted something as bold and seemingly impossible, to transform Westerners into full-fledged devotees of Lord Krishna. But by his intense spiritual energy and compassion, Srila Prabhupada is successful beyond his own expectations.
How old is the movement?
But from historical point of view, it is about 5,000 years old.
Why has it just begun to really catch on in the Western world? I mean, just recently, in recent years, has it begun to sweep the Western world? Why is this?
The Western world, the younger generation were being frustrated with the hippie movement. So, when they saw something tangible, they accepted it.
What things would, if everyone in the United States believed in Krishna to the extent that you do, what would happen to this country? How would it be transformed?
They'll be very happy and peaceful. There will be no more hippies.
What would you describe as a hippie? Someone who smokes...
You know better than me. Something extraordinary.
The thing that really inspired me the most about Srila Prabhupada was his complete dedication to his devotees. The thing that Prabhupada liked the best was to be with his disciples. It wasn't that he took on large amounts of disciples and then sat back and then just pushed them to do this and that and the other for himself. He did more for us than we ever did for him. And traveling with him personally, I got to see what a tremendous sacrifice he made for us. But even when he was ill, he would still preach. He would still be concerned. He would still be asking after how things were going in the society that he created, how were individual disciples doing. He always had time also to look to our personal needs. He was very concerned. Prabhupada wasn't aloof. All he really wanted was us to reciprocate the love that he gave to us. And if we reciprocated, he would give us more. So my personal experience with Srila Prabhupada was that I found in him a person that I could actually genuinely, fully give myself to.
In Srila Prabhupada's eyes, Krishna consciousness is not an armchair philosophy or a part-time religion. It is a way of life, a transcendental culture that can end man's political, economic, and social problems. To realize his vision, Srila Prabhupada circles the globe 14 times in 12 years, inspiring his followers and discussing Krishna consciousness with all interested persons. His door is open to everyone.
Actually, nothing is private property. Everything belongs to God. Rather, we have stolen God's property and claiming my property. That is Australia. The Englishman came here, but is that the property of the Englishman? It was there. America, it was there. And when everything will be finished, it will be there. In the middle we come and claim, it is my property and fight.
To revive the Krishna conscious tradition in its full richness, Prabhupada envisions God-centered, self-sufficient farm communities based on the principle of plain living and high thinking. The first such community begins on 133 acres in the hills of West Virginia. Prabhupada calls it New Vrindavan, after Krishna's place of pastimes in India. In 1972, Srila Prabhupada begins a Krishna-conscious primary school system in Dallas, Texas.
Srila Prabhupada very practically introduced a primary school system to teach children self-realization along with regular studies. This means that the Gurukul system is unique in that the educators are themselves free of vices. We could hardly find an institution where the faculty members are free of loose sexual relationships, intoxication, smoking, although they may have good credentials academically. That would be rare to find. But in Krishna consciousness, the teacher must also be on the platform of pure devotional service, because the children are very impressionable and they'll learn whatever their educators are actually doing, not just what they're saying. So these were some of the principles that Srila Prabhupada introduced in Gurukula.
Srila Prabhupada gradually trains his disciples in the time-honored tradition of deity worship to help them advance spiritually. He explains, "I have introduced this system of deity worship among the non-believers, the atheists. Krishna cannot be understood with our present senses, but by his kindness he agrees to personally appear as the deity to accept our service. When we are attracted to the beautiful form of the deity, we will forget our attraction for material things. And as we serve the deity, we will develop pure love of God. Then our lives will be successful." In Melbourne, Australia, Srila Prabhupada worships Lord Chaitanya, a divine incarnation of Krishna.
By Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, we have installed the deity here in your country. You are very fortunate that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to your country to teach you how you become free of all anxiety. Everyone is full of anxiety, but everyone can be free from all the anxieties if he follows the path chalked out by Sri Chaitanya Prabhu. As people are followed in this age, the method also has been offered very simply. They have been recommended simply to